How about Rick Pitino becoming the first head coach to take 6 different schools to the NCAA Tournament? How about 6? 6 is good. Boston, Providence, Kentucky, Louisville, Iona, and now St. John's. And he's enjoying his highest seed since he was at Louisville. After leading the Johnnies to the Big East regular season and tournament titles, they are a 2 seed taking on Omaha tomorrow night on CBS. Let's play Contender or Pretender with a guy who has a hard time saying anything critical about a team, a player, or a coach. Anybody but me, I guess. And that's Mike O'Donnell. Are you just going to call everyone a contender here? Because I know this is tough for you.
I want to, very badly. This is probably the most difficult segment I have ever done or prepared for in my entire life.
And he's not kidding about that either.
Yep.
He took Noah to the side and said, we're not doing this today. And Noah said, I'm the producer, I'm the boss, we're doing it.
So what's actually
I got
crazy
intimidated.
is he has more pretenders than contenders. We're going to go through some of these teams. I know we're turning you into a bad guy. He's about to be a heel. Let's start with St. John's. Let's start with Rick Pitino here. It's hard to imagine that you would say pretender about this particular team.
It is hard to imagine, and I'm not going to imagine it because they are a contender. And one of the reasons why, when you look at the St. John's team, I don't know if either of you ever watched St. John's that much. I know you
called the St. John's game. They lost to Georgia.
Okay, let's take about 25% off. Take it easy, okay? So St. John's, one thing why they are a contender is because of their defense. And they do a thing called peel switching. It's not, we don't have to get into schematically what they do in terms of what that phrase actually means. But it's essentially like preparing for an angry hornet's nest. They are looking to get deflections, steals. They're constantly switching. They love to take great defense, move to offense, and that travels on a neutral site floor. St. John's is not a good three-point shooting team. They're not. They're one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the Big East, but because their defense is so good, no matter who they're matched up with, they force you to play at their tempo, and that tempo wants to be fast. They're top 40 in the country in tempo. They force turnovers as good as anybody in the country, and they make you take shots that you don't practice. That's why their defense is so good. That's why they're a contender.
Okay, so 1-for-1 contender here. This was a softball. This next one, Kansas. Kansas is a 7 seed. Why are we? Obviously, they're not a contender.
Well, they could be a contender because of Bill Self, because of DeJuan Harris, because of Hunter Dickinson down low, but they haven't played like a contender all season. I don't like saying this. Just saying the word makes me really uncomfortable. They are a pretender because of their inconsistency. And I think we could dive into the X's and O's as much as we possibly want. But one of the most frustrating things to watch this Kansas team, I think Bill Self would tell you this. I think their fan base would tell you this. There's an effort concern there on showing up every single game. And I know that's somewhat cliche to say and say, well, Mike, bring some more, go into the weeds, dive X's and O's. It's not an X's and O's situation. It's not a statistical situation. It's not a depth situation. They have serious issues bringing physicality and effort on both ends of the floor. It's bizarre to see because we're not used to seeing that from a Bill Self team. And for that reason, they're a pretender.
Okay, so what about, let's go to Kentucky, and they come in as a 3 seed here, first season, post John Calipari, but as I mentioned, he's kind of going the other way on some of these.
So Kentucky is a contender for the Sweet 16. I do not think they have enough to make it to the Final Four national championship game.
That you didn't make a decision.
They're a pretender. Just saying it makes me queasy. Because
so basically what we're saying is they're contender or pretender to make a run to the Final Four, right?
That's correct.
That's the cutoff.
That's correct. They're a contender for the Sweet 16. They are not a contender for the Final Four. Primarily because of their defense. We know how good their offense is. They're going to make threes. No matter who they're playing, it doesn't matter. They're going to make threes. They're going to pass the ball well. They're going to play at a high tempo. Defensively, there are serious issues. You can't win games all the way up to the Final Four by scoring 100 points and having the opposing team be close to 100 points. Amanda, I'm telling you right now, one of the primary issues that nobody's talking about enough is they really, really, really miss Lamont Butler. They miss his defense. They miss his physicality. They miss his presence to get one-on-one defensive stops, and that's going to be an issue. You can't let teams score in the 90s in the NCAA tournament and move on to the Final Four.
Okay, so a couple of blue bloods, he says, pretenders, even though they've got really good players.
There's
great coach.
Caveats to that.
How about UConn, though? Because this is the 2-time defending champs. We know what Coach Hurley has done. They've won 12 straight tournament games by 13-plus points. Are they a contender or a pretender to reach the Final Four?
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
I'm ready.
They're a contender.
I
That's
don't
what I'm
like
doing.
it
They're
because
a
they
contender.
take on Oklahoma in the first round. But,
I understand that. So they're a contender because of Dan Hurley, number one, because of what they do offensively. They probably run the most unique half-court offensive sets in the country. They're virtually impossible to prepare for, especially when we're talking about making runs. It's not just about, okay, we've got 3 or 4 days to prepare for UConn's half-court offense. Nope. Sometimes, you get 24 hours or even less than 24 hours to prepare for UConn. Liam McNeely, great. Ball at point guard, great. Down low, great. Everybody, the backcourt, the front court, Liam McNeely, he's a potential lottery pick. You cannot discount Dan Hurley. When they are flowing offensively, they can beat anybody in the country. He's been here before, twice in a row. We know that. For that reason, I think I got to put the contender tag to UConn.
We kind of ganged up on you here on each side of you.
No, I mean, that was your choice here, and I think our producer's going to talk to you about that after the show because he's mad about the seating here. Mike, we appreciate it. You got really lucky because we didn't get to Michigan, but I'm just going to tell everyone because you're good friends with Dusty May, you had them as a pretender as well.
Contender.
You can watch every men's game live on the March Madness Live app.
So we've got another really interesting matchup tonight in the first 4. This might be the juiciest head coaching matchup of all this weekend. Rodney Terry, Sean Miller. We break it down next.